All right. Hey guys. So, really cool feature just came out. Hopefully, you guys already know or have heard. But Microsoft has released sensitivity labels for cloud security groups. Now, this is a big deal. Unlike unified groups that we think about for Teams and SharePoint and things of that nature, the crux of the shield of all of identities are cloud security groups. And previously, that was basically gated just basically to admins. But the problem is within security groups, you typically, I preach this a lot that you want to set owners to the groups. And the problem is once you assign someone owner, regardless of them having an administrative role, they could add whoever they want. Now, one thing that may happen is they may accidentally add someone they shouldn't, like a guest or someone that has no business being in said group, right? And that's a critical thing to understand and to be able to control. And so by applying sensitivity labels to groups, Microsoft is essentially giving us more governance capabilities over those groups. And so I think for me, is just such a big deal because this is where identity meets governance. This is where the rubber meets the road. And I'm just so excited about this overlap in technology and the ability to get granular controls around this critical portion of the identity infrastructure. I am not a purview expert. Let me be very clear. I'm going to do my best. I've got some posts that I'm working on, and I think this video will come out with it. But I want to point out a couple of things that are extremely pertinent. There are a lot of limitations. This is in preview, so I want to make sure we touch on some of those things. But again, at the crux of what we're looking to do here is we're looking to be able to apply sensitivity labels directly to cloud security groups and restrict who can actually control what goes in the group. And I'm going to show a couple examples of this. Let's start with the prereqs though. So prereqs, I start in Claude. I'm gonna be honest, I use Loca for everything these days. Like it is the most powerful tool. If you are not using it, I will showcase why you need to be. So first thing I did, I just said, let's go through. I've already done all the pre-checks, but what I wanted to do is I want to show you how Claude and Loca can basically get this up. So I said, hey, let's go make sure we've got all the prerequisites for the check. So what happened is I ran the new Loca V2, which now has a new interactive setting where we can see everything that's being displayed here. And what it's doing is it's going through the prereqs. And so from a prerequisite standpoint, there's a couple things that are needed. One, there's some settings that have to be enabled on the group unified setting capabilities of groups. So there's the setting, the MIPS label has to be enabled. And then the new group security setting has to be enabled as well. I'll have some posts with that showcasing exactly what has to happen there. The other thing that has to happen is I need to check the labels because I need to make sure that I have sensitivity labels that are actually targeting the group. So you can see here, sensitivity labels, cloud security group, prereq check. Public preview, May 2026, very new feature. I went through, it checked the groups.security object has been enabled, your tenant, it's done, Loca confirmed, boom, 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 enable MIPS label true, allowed to add guest true. And then it went through and it looked at all my labels. Prerequisite label publish. It looked at each type of label and it said, yep, all these labels are targeting these things. You are good to go. And then the only thing it didn't know was the idea of if I had already run the actual Azure AD label sync. And I'm going to have an image with that kind of showcasing that that's a requirement. Now, like I said, I will point you to this article. I'm going to have this article on LinkedIn as well. But the idea is there are a ton of limitations at the time of writing, and you need to understand what those limitations are because I do think they're critical. Label immutability, the biggest one, right? So don't start labeling all your groups because if you mess up, those labels are immutable, at least at time of preview. After preview, we may get the capabilities later on to remove or have like a super user that's capable of doing that. But right now, not the case. High privilege bypass. I've got an image that I'm building specifically for this. So case in point, right? If I'm a group's administrator, keep in mind, we're trying to limit what the API is capable of doing, but at the same time, we can't break the API. So if I'm a group's administrator or a highly privileged role that can modify groups, I'm still going to be able to bypass this. This is not a point of sensitivity labels. Admins should still be admins. The idea is group owners aren't necessarily admins. I should assign someone over the accounting group as an owner. It doesn't mean they should be an admin. It just means they should own the accounting group, And so they should have controls to do that. But as the admin, I should set those restrictions. And so I think it's critical that we look at all of these known limitations: label immutability, high privilege bypass, no nested group labeling. You can't apply to that's currently nested. Now, nesting will apply. So like if you then nest, if you label everything and then nest it after, nesting should still apply, meaning that the highest layer restricted label should be in effect. We'll talk about that more. There's definitely more around that. Cool. All right, let's get in. Let's do a demo. I think that's really where the rubber meets the road here. So you saw from Claude, I've already enabled everything. I've created a group specifically for testing. So currently I'm logged in as myself. I have created a group, restricted guest group. So what I want to do is I have already gone ahead, and you can see here, I cannot change this, but I have applied the sensitivity label restricted internal. So this is going to be a group that gets targeted at any of my internal highly sensitive information. I don't want the owner of the group to be able to add a guest to it, right? So that's not what I want. I don't want them to be able to do that. I specifically want to be able to control that. So who is the owner of the group? Myself and Hermione Granger are owners of said group. I am a global admin. So, do as I do, not as I say. I have essentially, I have the privileges to add whoever I want. So I'm going to go, because I clicked off by accident, I'm going to go click on my group again. And I'm going to showcase that because I am a global admin, I can add a guest. So if I go and I go look for this guy, it's a guest in my tenant. There you go. Member successfully added. Keep in mind, this is not my tenant. So this is a guest member that I have added in my tenant. Cool. We're going to remove that. So this is showcasing that as a highly privileged user, I can bypass the API even though I have a restricted label on this for internal. So there's limitations there. Now, let's try this way. So I'm going to, give me 1 second. I'm going to open a new browser as Hermione Granger. So now I am Hermione, who is owner of the group, but is not a privileged role. So we're going to go use our passkey and we're going to log in because of course Hermione has a synced passkey set up. And now she's in. And now Hermione is going to go try to add that same exact guest. So if I come over here, Hermione, being the owner of said group, would have the ability to add people to this group. So just to showcase that, right? I want to showcase that she does, as the owner of this group, she has the ability to add. She's going to add Dumbledore. So she can add Dumbledore. Successfully added. So she still has the capabilities to add internal users because she is a group owner. She's not an admin. She doesn't. If we look at her, well, no, we're not going to go look at her roles right now because I don't want to leave out of this. But she's not a group admin. Just take my word for it. Now, if she were to go try to add a guest, so she goes add this John Hope guy from this other tenant, failed to add group member, unable to add the selected member due to a permission or policy restriction. Beautiful. So that is at the crux what it's doing. Now, what I would say is read all the known limitations, make sure you understand all the capabilities of this, and think through how you want to do your labeling. Because again, at the time of recording, all of this is immutable. So we're not going to be able to modify things outside of the sensitivity labels on the groups. So I would highly recommend thinking through exactly how you want to use your taxonomy, what you want labeled where. But at the end of the day, I think this is a great combination of technologies coming together to strengthen your identity posture and control over those identities, specifically around those groups. So awesome. Hope you guys enjoy it.